Okay, so today I wanted to collect data for the lab that we're doing, and basically there's three things we're going to look at. We're going to look at just the substances, and then we're going to look at when we make a solution out of it. For both of those, we're going to look at what the conductivity is. And then we're going to see for four of the substances whether they melt easily or not on a hot plate. So first off, we have, I have put the substances out on a little tray here. And we have distilled water here. Now this here is a little sensor, and there's two little proby things. And basically, if the substance conducts electricity, that will complete the circuit and it will light up the light. So if we put this in the distilled water, we see no light. If, on the other hand, we go in the tap water, you do see, a light forming there. Okay, and it's fairly bright. Okay, with the aluminum, we do again see a light. With the acetamide, there's no light. With sugar, there's no light. With copper sulfate, no light. And finally, with sodium sulfate, again, we don't get a light. Now, if we were to take distilled water, so I have over here distilled water, and I'm going to put the distilled water in to into the wells here. Then I'm going to take a toothpick and a couple toothpicks and stir. If we take this off, we might be able to see better the substances. And you can see that those two substances have largely dissolved. Now if we go here with the copper, you see again that the copper is dissolving. And finally, the sodium sulfate kind of chunked up a little bit there. Okay, and again, we do see that that is dissolving as well some. There's still a little bit, but a lot of it's dissolved. So I think all of the substances actually dissolved. Now let's check the conductivity again. So obviously the metal, aluminum, does conduct electricity. Then we have, let's see, next was acetamide. So this is now a solution with acetamide. Let's dab that. And we do see a faint light there. So it does faintly go. Now we're going to try the sugar. Just barely. So again, there is a little bit of a light. Now we're going to try the copper sulfate, copper 2 sulfate, and we get a fairly bright light. And we're going to try the sodium sulfate. And again, there's a fairly bright light there. So that was looking at conductivity. Now what we're going to do is I have over here the four substances. And one of them is run into the other. or two of them have melted. So we had up in the upper left corner, there was the acetamide. Down here was the sugar. This was the copper sulfate. And over there is the sodium sulfate. So you'll see the sugar and the acetamide both melted on a hot plate, whereas the copper sulfate and the sodium sulfate did not melt. So I think that concludes the data you need for the lab.